Hello everyone, this is the second part of tutorial videos about creating an inventory system, and today we're gonna add a user interface for our inventory and we will see whether everything is working correctly. Let's create a new folder and call it UI. Open it up. Here let's create a right click on an empty space, select user interface and create a widget blueprint. Select user widget and call it VB inventory slot. Let's open it up. This is gonna be a representation of a slot of our inventory. Let's add a size box here. Select it. And here we can define a size for our square of inventory. By default, it is 0, 0. Select width override and height override, and let's set it to something like 50 on 50. On a canvas panel on the right side you have fill screen button. Select it and set desired on screen. This is gonna be a correct representation of a size. Well, this is gonna be our cell. Let's add an image. Or maybe let's first add a canvas, not a canvas. Let's add an overlay panel in our size box. Overlay is needed to be able to store multiple objects with one parent. Let's add an image into our overlay and let's scale it on X and Y. This is going to be a background of a cell. You can set an image here using this image. I think that I don't have any, or maybe I will select something like this. That's just a squared image. Well, I need a thumbnail, so it's gonna be one more image in my overlay. That's it. It's gonna be at the top, but I had to add a little padding from the top, so I'm gonna add padding in details panel from the top, like 10, too much, 5, something like this. Also, I want to decrease an image size from 32 to 20 on 20, and I'm gonna set a template image to see how it will look like. Maybe I will increase it. Now we have to show somehow to user an amount of items. So we have to add a text. Search for text and add the text into overlay. It's gonna be located at the bottom. So in vertical alignment, select bottom. And it's gonna be located on a right side and bottom right corner. So horizontal alignment is gonna be right. Well, text is too big, so let's open a font and decrease its size like 10. Let's set something like 50 to see how it will look like. Also, I'm gonna change the justification to make it centered in a container and move it a little bit to the bottom. So I'm gonna change padding from a top, or not a top, from a bottom to -5. And from right to -5. Well, something like this is fine. Well, if you need it, we need a title. I don't know. Let's add a title. So add a new text, bottom alignment, and horizontally it will be aligned centrally. Let's set something like Apple. Decrease size to 16, 14, 12. Okay, I think that it will be very small. I'm gonna decrease a size over an amount from 10 to 8. I think that we will have to increase size of our slot, but we will see it later. So Apple is gonna be located here, and I have to add a padding from a bottom to something like 5. and justification is gonna be center. Well, not very pretty, but I'm not a user interface designer. So what do we need to do now? Let's select an image first of an item, and here in details panel you have a name, image, slash and some number. Let's call it img item icon and set it a variable, make it a variable. Then select Apple, name it txt item name, make a variable, amount, txt amount, make a variable, save, compile. Now let's open the graph. Here on the right side, or on the right side of a designer button, select a new switcher called graph. You will notice the variables are located here. Let's create a new function. No, let's create a new variable and let's call it inventory item of type as inventory item. Let's make it instance editable and exposed on spawn, so that we will have to provide this item during initialization of this inventory slot. And now on event preconstruct, we can get this inventory item or maybe no, we don't need an inventory item. We need an inventory slot. So let's get an inventory slot. Which one of them? I don't remember. So here we can get an inventory item now and break it. We'll have an amount. So let's get a txt amount variable and call set text. And we're gonna select, let's get an amount and check. If it is equal to 1, let's add a select. If it is equal to 1, we don't have to display any text, at least in my game. So there is no number here. So if equal to 1, on true we're returning nothing. If false, we're gonna return an amount. Compile and save. Move it a little bit. Now we have to get an item from this inventory slot. Let's get it and break this structure. We get a data table and row name. Let's get a row from this data table with this row name and break a row as inventory item. Now we have a thumbnail and we can get our image item icon and set brush. Set brush from texture. And texture is gonna be this thumbnail. Also we can get our txt item name and set text. And plug name from our structure here. We can select the structure and hide unconnected pins so that it will not take so much place. That's it for now for setting up an inventory slot widget. Now let's create a scrollable inventory. Let's create a new widget blueprint, user widget, and call it VB inventory. Open it. Here, let's again add a size box. Now we have to define a width and height of this size box. Let it be 200 on width and 600 on height. set it desired on screen. Oh no, 400 and 550, maybe 500. Yeah, that looks much better. Now let's add an image to our size box. Not an image, I'm sorry, overlay. And let's add an image here. Scale it horizontally and vertically. And you can set some background. I don't know, maybe I will set mine again. Slot. Like this. No, I think that I'm gonna just use some color. Better, I'm gonna use a black color with alpha channel, like this. Well, our image will have a scroll box. Not an image, I mean in overlay we will have a scroll box. Let's also scale it horizontally and vertically. And inside of a scroll box we're gonna have a wrap box. So our wrap box will already have our widgets. Let's type in a VB inventory. How have we called it? Inventory slot. Inventory slot. Which one of them? Maybe this? Yes, this one. So now you can, no, not here, in the wrap box, I mean. Here is our apple, let's duplicate it. So this is how it will go. Well, now let's select the wrap box and change a spacing between items. First, we have inner slot paddings. On X we're gonna set 10. On Y we're gonna set also 10. For our wrap box we also have to add the paddings. This one paddings. Left 10 and right 10. Also 10 on top and 10 on bottom. Well, our items are not fitted correctly. So we can try to use this, but I don't like it. So you will have to find a correct sizes. So when you will modify sizes, you can know that, for example, Apple is 50, Wrapbox is some other value. You can modify width of your inventory, of your size box. Here, like not 500, maybe 450. Well, why it doesn't change? Oh, because I've changed height. Not 400, but 380. Or even less. So you have to just count what is the precise size for an inventory. Well, now we can delete these inventory slots because we don't need them by default. Also, I would like to change all sections in my inventory by categories. So I want to have categories because we have added them to our inventory item structure and we need to use it. So we should not have only one wrap box. In our scroll view, we're gonna have a vertical box. We're gonna have no, we're gonna have a horizontal box at first in our scroll box. Here it is. And our horizontal box will have two vertical boxes. 1 and 2. Not here. Well, now we don't see them. Unfortunately, let's make it fill. And horizontal box, where is so now we have such layout. Select for horizontal boxes and for horizontal box and for vertical boxes to fill size. We'll have two boxes. Main thing are vertical, and we gonna add some sections here. So first, let's add a widget blueprint for a section. Right click somewhere, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget. Or maybe we don't need it, by the way. Maybe it will be too complicated. Let's add a text. Let's add just a text to our first vertical box, for example. And let's call it like weapon. Let's move it a little bit from the left. And let's add a padding and from the top. Let's add 10 from top, 10 from left. And below weapon, we will have a wrap box. So now let's add the wrap box. Here it is. And already in this wrap box, we will have our VB. Where is it? VB inventory. Slot, inventory slot in our wrap box. And it will look like this. So first, let's add numerous wrap boxes here. Also, for every wrap box, or maybe not wrap box, let's add a padding for vertical boxes by themselves. So select a first vertical box, open paddings, and from left let's add 10. Right, and from right let's add 10. The same for top and bottom. Now we can reverse paddings that we have added for title, 0 and 0. Here we have a wrap box. Let's add a padding for a wrap box from the top. We can use spacers, but I don't think that we need them here. So this is gonna be a wrap box for weapons. Let's call it VB weapons. Make it a variable. Next, duplicate this text, move it below VB, move it into vertical box below wrap box, add padding, or add a padding to a wrap box from the bottom like 10, and let's call it armor. And here we'll have one more wrap box. Not like this, Control C, Control V. Let's call it VB armor. Compile, save, and let's add some something to a right side. Let's copy text and wrap box and paste it into second vertical box, like this. Also for every wrap box, let's add the right padding, is 10. And on the right side, oh, we need it on the right side. Well, or let's not add 10 to a wrap box, let's add the padding. Let's add a padding to a vertical boxes. From left 5 and from right 5. So the distance between them will be 10. So we have added something here. Let's call it maybe food. And this is gonna be wrap box VB food. That's it. Well, now we be food and make it a variable. Great. Now let's open an event graph and add a new variable called inventory. And it's gonna be as inventory item. Inventory slot, I'm sorry. As inventory slot, this one. And it's gonna be an array. Make it instance editable and exposed on spawn. Now in preconstruct, we're gonna get WB armor, food, and weapons from a variable section and clear them. Or not clear, I don't honestly remember how. Remove, maybe remove. I think clear will be fine. So, and call clear children in preconstruct event. So now, let's get an inventory and for each loop through them. Here we're gonna break an inventory slot. Next we're gonna break an inventory item. Next we're gonna get this item. So let's get data table row for this row name. And we needed to know to get a category of an item. Now let's break a row, break as inventory item. And here we have an item type. We can disable every pin except item type. Now let's switch on this item type. Switch. Connected to row found. Now, if this item is a weapon, we're gonna get WB weapons and add child to wrap box. Now we have to create widget and we have to do it not in a switch, right before switch will be enough, I think. Right before switch, call create widget function. Select a class is gonna be WB inventory slot. Compile, save. We have to provide an inventory item because we made it exposed on spawn. If you don't see it, right click on this function and click refresh nodes. We have to plug inventory item. It's gonna be an item from our for each loop. Plug it here. And connect this return value to a child to wrap box. So let's delete this switch. Let's connect everything here and delete WB weapons. So we have a function a child to wrap box, but we have to provide a target. Let's get this item type and make a select node and plug return value to target. Now we have to just provide a wrap boxes for weapon. It's gonna be WB weapons from variables, WB armor for armor, and the same for food. We didn't add a category for resources and other, at least yet. You can do it by yourself. So we only have 3 sections just for test purposes. Well, on this place it should work. Well, finally, we have to add this inventory to our main HUD. If you have your main HUD, just open your main HUD. If you don't, create a new one. Right click on an empty space, user interface, widget blueprint, and add user widget. Call it WB main HUD and open it. Here we're gonna add a canvas panel, not a size box, but a canvas panel. It will represent our screen size. Well, here let's add our inventory. Search for WB inventory. Which one? Looks like this one. Yeah, here it is. Select size to content. So this is gonna be a size of inventory. Well, I think that it is too small. I'm gonna open a WB inventory and change some values. I'm gonna make it wider. Let's make it 600 on 750. Oh, on 650. File save. How it will look now? Well, that's much better. Also a little bit more. 700, 750. Compile save. Well, this is fine. Select an anchor to a right center side of a screen. Here it is. Select an alignment to 0.5 on y-axis. And now we can set position y to 0, so it will be centered on y-axis. Now move your anchors like this. And make it a variable. Just make it a variable. Now, let's also verify that our WB widgets, WB items widgets look fine on their size. Here, let's add WB inventory slot to weapons. Okay, we don't see it on the weapons wrap box because our pre-construct clear everything. Compile. Here it is. Let's open main HUD. Maybe they are too small, by the way. Also, our boxes don't have spacings here. Let's select them all and add X paddings to 10 and Y paddings to 10. And let's add more apples and see how it will be aligned horizontally. Well, it's aligned normally. By the way, in game it will not be visible maybe. But I don't want to count sizes right now. I will leave it for a future me. So now let's connect pre-construct back. So it will remove us everything in preview. Well, on the main HUD widget, let's open the graph. And we need an input. One more input, and it's gonna be an inventory system of type BPC inventory system. Compile, save. Make it instance editable, exposed on spawn. Let's add a function here called show inventory. Select a function, add an input here called show. We'll use this function for both showing and hiding an inventory. We're gonna get this widget blueprint inventory and set visibility. Call set visibility function and select on show. Select. So, and connect return value to invisibility. So if show flag was true, then it's gonna be visible. If false, then it's gonna be hidden. Compile, save. But before that, or not before that, well, our widget blueprint inventory should not do this in pre-construct because it is already pre-constructed in our main HUD widget. We have to add a function here called update with inventory. Open preconstruct function here and copy everything and cut it from here, open update with inventory and paste it here, like this. Well, this function needs an input. It's gonna be inventory of type S inventory slot, and it's gonna be an array. We're gonna get a local variable inventory and set it from here. Well, I selected incorrect inventory slot type, and everything here should stay the same. So now let's select an inventory and not make it instance editable and exposed on spawn. We don't need it anymore. Let's open main HUD, and in preconstruct, or not in preconstruct, in show inventory function, we're gonna get our VB inventory before setting its visibility, get, and call update with inventory. Plug everything here, and inventory is gonna be inventory system from our variables, and get inventory. Plug it here, like this. So now let's show this main HUD somehow. So let's open our character. In my case, it's BP thief character. Let's open a place where inputs are located and create some input. I'm gonna create some debug input. Debug key is gonna be key tab, and when it is pressed, we're gonna call something on our inventory. First, let's add the main HUD widget to our screen. We're gonna do it in begin play. Let's open event graph, begin play here, and here we're gonna create widget connected with begin play. Select a class as VB main HUD. Which one of them? Is this one? Okay. And you can see that we have to provide it with inventory system. So first we have to add an inventory system component to our character. Let's add BPC inventory system. Compile and save. Set max slots count to, I don't know, maybe 60, max weight to 150, or let it be 1000 for now, and connect BPC inventory system here. Okay, now after main HUD widget is created, we have to add it to a viewport. Call add to viewport function. Now we will see a widget. By the way, we will see our inventory when we will start the game because it is not hidden by default. So yes, here it is. You can see an inventory on the right side. Let's close it for now. Let's open main HUD and hide our inventory by default. Select it, and on the right panel you will find visibility. Here it is, visibility in behavior section, and set it to hidden. Now on BP character, open your inputs and then place where you have added an input. On pressed button, let's call a function. We have to access our widget and tell him to call function that we've created, show inventory. To do that, we have to promote in begin play our widgets that we have created to a variable. Let's promote it to a variable here and call it VB main HUD. Now back to an input, and when tab is pressed, Let's get main hot and call show inventory with flag true. And we can add a boolean value here called is inventory shown. By default is false. We're gonna set it to true here, or not to true even. We're gonna set it to not is inventory shown. We're gonna get an inventory here, get not boolean, set it here, and right after that we're gonna plug it here. So when a tab button will be pressed, then inventory shown will be toggled. So if it was false, then it will be set it to true and will tell main hot to show inventory. If it is already true and inventory shown, it will be set to not true, to false, and tell main hot widget to hide an inventory. So now compile, save, and let's start. So when I press tab, my inventory is shown. We still don't have and hidden, so show hide, everything works, but we still don't know whether our system of adding items is working. Well, let's open our thief character and add a new debug key. Let's add debug key Z. Let it be this letter, and on pressed we're gonna get our inventory. Where is it? Components, BPC inventory system, and call add item. And ID is gonna be Apple. And let's add an amount of 95. Or let's add 50 for now and see will it work for 50. Start project, Z button, open, no. Well, it's not working, so something is not working. Did we add an apple to our data table, by the way? Yes, we have added it here. Well, let's find out what's wrong with our system. Let's open BPC inventory system and open function add item. Let's add few breakpoints here. Let's add one here and one here and one here. Let's start. I'm pressing Z. Slots 0. Well, we have created a function called create inventory. But have we called it? No, we didn't call our function create inventory. Open begin play of a component and call create inventory function. Now I'm gonna remove a breakpoints for now. And test it again. Z, tab, and now we can see that we have 0 apples. Yes, we have 0 apples. Why we have 0 apples? Add item function have some issues, so let's search for them. Where is a place we're setting an amount? Here we are setting an amount, and it is an amount, a current amount in the slot plus well. Let's set this local amount left after setting an array element. Don't think that the problem is okay. The problem was in this because why this happened? Because when it was here, it first was decreased to 0, and then an amount for a new inventory slot was counted when local amount was 0 and the minimum returned as 0. So it should be right after here. Well, it works for 50 apples. Let's add 105 apples. So now you can see that apples are stored in 3 slots. Well, let's add a new inventory item. Let's add, for example, an axe. Let's call it axe. ID is gonna be the same, axe. Name is gonna be, you will not believe, an axe, and thumbnail, let me search for, and thumbnail for an axe will be a wooden log. Max text size is gonna be 1. Weight doesn't matter for now. Quality is gonna be 1, and item type is gonna be a weapon. Let's start. And in your character, on debug key Z, we're gonna also call add item, but now with ID axe, and add 2 axes. Let's test it. Yes, now you can see 2 axes allocated in the weapons section. Let me add more of them. So that looks fine. Maybe slots are a little bit small, but I will increase them later for me. So that's it for this video. We ensured that our functions for adding items to inventory is working fine. See you in the next video.